Evvie Drake is about to make a dramatic change as she's packing up, getting ready to leave her husband. She gets a call informing her he has died in a car accident.
Evie winds up alone in a big house in a small town in Maine until she takes in a boarder by the name of Dean Tenney. Dean is the former Major League pitcher whose career collapses.
Yes, so we're talking about Linda Holmes' new novel, Evvie Drake Starts Over. Linda's also the host of NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast. And we have members of our Read with Jenna book club standing by with questions.
Wow.
Linda, we're so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for talking about the book and liking the book.
Absolutely.
I loved the book.
So good.
I appreciate it so much.
So much fun. I mean, when I was reading that intro, I'm like, are we giving away too much?
You know, a lot of that happens right at the beginning,
Yes.
and it's sort of more about how it develops than it is about what's the plot, you know?
Exactly. You are a first-time author. This is your debut novel, which, by the way, hit the New York Times bestseller list.
Go, girl.
Crazy.
What? How did you decide to write?
I had always wanted to write a novel. I had always wanted to since I was a little kid. And I think I realized as I was in my 40s, you know, it's been a wish for a really long time, and it's going to stay a wish unless you make it into a plan. And so that's what I did, and I announced on the podcast that it was my New Year's resolution. So then you're you're on the hook.
Yes, you have to say it out loud, and then you have to follow through. Wow.
Well, we have some Read with Jenna book club members that want to ask you some questions via Houseparty app. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
So let's start with Nancy Nix from Georgia. Nancy, what's your question?
Well, I follow the Atlanta Braves, but I'm not that proficient in all the baseball terminology. Did you have to do some in-depth research to learn all that baseball?
Yeah, I did do quite a bit of reading. At the very end of the book, in the acknowledgments, there's a list of some of the books I read. I did read some terrific books about baseball. I had followed baseball throughout my own life. My nephews play baseball. My brother-in-law coaches baseball. But I did have to actually do some just research and reading about baseball in general and pitchers in particular and people who have had this affliction, which they call the yips.
Which is a real thing.
Oh, it's a real thing. And it's absolutely, if you see people who have the yips, it's so unsettling and it's such a scary thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what? A lot of men have told me that they loved this book too, which is great.
Yeah.
Because it's a romantic comedy.
It is. I've had great conversations with men about this book. It's been so gratifying. And I think it's partly baseball, maybe it's other stuff.
Yes. Okay. We have Sara.
Sara Misha Lee from Michigan is next. What do you want to ask?
Hi, Linda. I was wondering, you made Evie a widow in the book, and then you added the layers of her being physically and emotionally abused. Why did you do that?
I think, you know, in her case, it's largely emotional abuse. And I was interested in exploring that because I think she is somebody who has struggled not just to recognize that in her own life, but also to find a vocabulary for talking about it. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And I think she has an unhappy marriage, and that's a thing that happens to a lot of people in unhappy marriages.
Yeah.
And that also it's not like she's looking for a man to save her. She kind of has to save herself.
Absolutely. One of the big things that she does is go to therapy.
Yeah.
It's not just, you know, finding a new person.
Yeah.
Best money I ever spent.
For sure.
What?
Me too.
Me three. Finally, we have Priscilla Delgado from Texas. Go ahead, Priscilla.
Hi, Linda. Here's my question. Andy, a guy, was Evie's best friend.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind that male-female friendship?
Well, I have a lot of very close men friends. And I think a lot of times in romantic comedies or novels in general, I think male-female friendship is an underappreciated, beautiful,
totally
wonderful thing. And actually, people will sort of say, well, can men and women be friends? But in most people's lives, they have those friends. It's sort of a silly question. And I really wanted to write about those beautiful friendships. So that's a special element of the book to me.
Well, this whole book is super special. There's layers. It's complex in ways that you're not expecting. I loved it. I'm so happy it did so well. And so many people Loved it. And Linda's book is Evvie Drake Starts Over. We are going to talk later on Instagram, by the way.
Yes.
So tune in for that. But also tune in Thursday when I announce my next Read with Jenna book club selection.
Lucky.
It's a
Lucky
good one.
author.
Oh, I'm going to whisper what it is later.
Oh, cool.